Yeah, let's go. I'ma blow up. Yeah. And now I'm ready, I'ma blow. Y'all already know. Yeah, that's right. Y'all better watch out. Nefex is on the rise. Yeah.
BJ Media back again like we never left. What's going on, fam? Today I'm gonna tell you exactly how to take better pictures and or video outside during the daytime. You know, it's the summertime, it's transitioning into the fall time, but it's still bright and sunny outside, and that sun is gonna be your best friend and your worst enemy. Because anytime you're trying to shoot or anytime you're trying to film, you're going to need to take the sun into account, because you're gonna need to be able to adapt to the sun and whatever it's doing while it's acting like a bratty teenager, not wanting to follow the plans that you have set up for that day. Now, of course, since we can't control the sun, we have to work around it. So the tool that I use most to get pictures and videos exactly how I want them to be, especially during the daytime, is I use ND filters. There are many kinds of ND filters, many brands, but the one that I use personally, and I've used it since it came out maybe like a year ago, is the Peter McKinnon Polar Pro ND filter, variable ND filter. This is a pretty expensive option. I wouldn't necessarily get this if you're just starting out. This is about $250 for the 2 to 5 stop and about $300 for the 6 to 9 stop. But they do have budget options such as like the K and F ND filters are pretty good as well for the price point, and they are much cheaper than this. Okay, now that I've gotten that out of the way, I can get rid of the box. That was perfect. I didn't even, first try. Beast. Okay, now I know what you're thinking. You probably heard this term before, ND filter. So what? What is it? What does it do? What's the big deal? I hate to sound cliche, but ND filters are pretty much sunglasses for your camera. Now, the way that I like to explain it is, take it like this. ND filter cuts down on light so that you don't have to touch your aperture, because the more you turn up your aperture, the less bokeh you're gonna get. And I know aperture does way more than just bokeh, but nobody cares about any of that other stuff. Let's just be real. The only thing we care about is the bokeh. So the higher you turn up the aperture, the less bokeh that you're gonna have. If you don't have to touch your aperture ring, you can maintain that bokeh. So putting on an ND filter allows you to use your f1.4, f1.8 lenses like that to its fullest extent, while getting the added benefits of having an f4 lens, so that your lens can be properly exposed, and you know, you can bring out the blues in that sky or the oranges in that sunset without losing the depth of field that everybody loves so much. Also, ND filters have a huge role to play, especially in the winter time. Photographers love taking pictures of the snow, you know, the mountains, all that kind of stuff. ND filters are lifesavers because the sun pretty much acts as a spotlight, shines down on the snow, which acts as a reflector since it's pure white, bouncing that light back onto your camera lens, blowing out your image. ND filter cuts down on that light. You get a beautifully exposed shot, beautiful footage of the kids, you know, building snowmen and having snowball fights and all that goodness of the winter time. Now, as I said before, there are different kinds of ND filters. You have the ones that I use the most, which are variable ND filters, and that's pretty much just because I do run and gun filmmaking a lot. I need to be able to adapt and change depending on where I am, what kind of shooting I'm doing, location, how long we're out there, behavior of the sun, that kind of stuff. Especially if we're doing photographs, it's usually street photography. The sun could be going up, the sun could be coming down. We could be out there all day. The lighting is changing constantly, and we have to be able to adapt to that. There's also fixed ND filters, which are pretty much a specific stop of light So you have to, pretty much know which stop of light you're going to be using the most and get that stop of light, because it doesn't change. It's not variable. You don't get a between stops of light. There's only one. So you pretty much have to know exactly how many stops of light you're going to be using on a regular basis. Now, there is a major advantage to having a fixed ND filter, other than the fact that they are said to be a bit sharper than variable ND filters, but they come more readily available with polarizers. And polarizers are, well, let's say it's like a saturation boost for your image. So it kind of brings out all the color of that image just a little bit more, whereas variable ND filters pretty much focus on bringing out the, the darkness and the contrast of your image. Now, there's also granulated ND filters, and these are pretty much like fixed ND filters, but it's split. So only half of the filter is affected. Only half of the image is pretty much affected. Now, I know a lot of people are like, that doesn't sound like it makes any sense. But this is something that would usually recommend for landscapes, or, taking photos of the ocean, the horizon, where the bottom half is exactly what you want to expose for, but the top half is the half that's dark. So you're only bringing out the darkness and contrast of the top half, which is usually the sky and the clouds and the sun, that kind of stuff. So it has its places, and you just have to figure out which one you're going to be doing most often and which one you need most for your type of photography or videography in order to get the best result. So there you guys have it. This is how I personally, and I know a bunch of other photographers, videographers, and YouTubers get better images outside during the day, is by using ND filters. So did you learn something new, or did you pretty much already know everything there is to know about ND filters? And let me know which filters you usually use in the comment section below. So as always, if you like this video, be sure to hit those thumbs up. If you loved it, be sure to subscribe. And if you have any more questions, be sure to get at me. Deuce.
Yeah, flex, I just wanna win. Yeah, LA BB, who we running with? Yeah, 2 2 3 3, I'm on 10 10 10. Yeah.